Pujari Sahab, Tuteja Sahab, Dharmaji, Mr. Sani, Mukesh, Tamal, and friends. You have already been welcomed by Tamal, so I will add on to the welcome and say I'm so happy that you are here and I'm happy that I'm here. I normally try to avoid Delhi because its pollution makes a 77-year young man start worrying about his lungs. But for this occasion, it's always a privilege to come. So I've been given, they've asked me to speak for about 10 minutes, so I suppose I will say a few things. I thought what I'd use this occasion, and you have to, professor to aapko lecture dega hi, whether you like it or not. You can say he's giving a welcome address, but he will give you an address. I thought I'd speak on two issues. One is, since we have so many senior people here, how do SMEs cope with volatility in the global and the national economy? That is one question. And the other is, for some reason, I think mostly undeserved, SMEs get a bad name when they talk about the environment. So I want to share with you some ways in which we can project that, listen, these are far more general problems. We are not to blame. In the foundation, we have experience, and all of you know the work that we have done on boilers, on fuel efficiency in general, and as a part of the European Union on a number of other projects. And I think it's fair to say that the CO coefficient of SMEs is most certainly less than many industries that I can think of, and perhaps even on an average, not that bad. But, these things need to get known. And I would like to, since Mukesh is here, make a small proposal in that regard, because he's very focused on concrete issues. और सर आप मैक्रो बात मत करिए ज़्यादा, पर पहले मैक्रो बात थोड़ी. We had, I thought in October, green shoots because October IIP was 3.5% better than the earlier month. And this was good because since 2012, when from Montec and then Prime Minister Saab, we heard that the next quarter will be better, and the next quarter was not getting better. It went through the period largely because of global reasons, also because, as the chief economic advisors have been saying, we have not been pushing public investment as much as we should, because that then drives in private investment and acts as a big fillip. And that was not happening because of, I think, not very valid economic advice that you must always keep the fiscal deficit under control, which you should, but then you can always raise resources. But leaving that aside, that's a kind of macro issue, but what do SMEs do? I think there is an argument that our associations should get involved in the functioning of the economy in a more serious manner. Most trade associations and industry associations have economic advisors. I don't think that a single small industry association will be able to afford an economic advisor. But my submission for Pujari Saab's consideration is that even if it means setting aside some money or setting aside some resources from many of the big institutions that we have to back up small enterprises, there may be something to be said for an economic forecasting group which concentrates more on the prospects of small industry. And that's a very serious issue because, as you know, we drive India's exports. I mean, whatever you say. And that means that we are globally linked. And it's important to understand in 1980s, my institute did the first study of diamond polishers in Surat. And in those days, diamond polishing was not very fashionable. And we discovered how market savvy they were. They had connections. They had connections with Holland. And our leather institute at Madras, in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, worked out the methods with which they would learn about European fashion, which is coming 6 months from now. So I think some of this on a more systematic basis is called for. And then, of course, we need to lobby, because as the economic space shrinks, as the growth rate goes down, the jhagras for scarce resources become more on the demand side, also on the supply side. And I think we need our lobbying mechanisms to say, look, hey, we as far as the big goals are concerned, employment, foreign exchange, expansion, we are way up there, so please take care of us. So that is the first point. The second is a more controversial one. Climate change, pollution. अब ये छोड़ेंगे तो नहीं है. These are serious issues. They cannot be brushed under the carpet. How serious they are? A few months ago, I got a phone call. We are the Committee for American Progress. अरे वाह, we also need a Committee for Indian Progress. बताओ क्या करते हो? Well, it's turned out it wasn't what they said. As you know, Pujari Saab, all American presidents try to keep something for themselves when they retire, which we also do. I was telling him I've also been a secretary to the government of India. So, Clinton, of course, developed the Clinton Foundation. Mr. Obama has set up something called the Committee for American Progress. It is chaired by an NRI lady. Her name is Neera Tanden, Neera Tanden. हिंदुस्तान में होती तो वो मीरा टंडन होती, but because वो NRI है तो she's Neera Tanden. Very distinguished lady. She thinks she's very senior, very close to Obama. You know, she, I'm told, was not too happy that she was not made a Deputy Secretary of State or whatever. But she's been given the special job. So she called people from all over the world to discuss climate change. But they did it in a very interesting way. They organized a game. Master Admi ho, so I thought this was very strange. I mean, I'm a 77-year-old master, so I shouldn't be playing games at this stage. But you know, it's a fascinating thing. I was there for 3 days. If you don't know what's happening, and I think in climate change we really don't, between the big talk of the CEO content and me, a small industry, then what you need is a mechanism to get the different parties together and to get their perception. What do they think is going to happen in the next 6 months, the next 3 years, the next 5 years? Well, they went up to 2030. And then, you know, when you start doing this, all of a sudden, the complete doubt, or the thing is up on there in the cloud, it starts concretizing. you start seeing कि क्या होने वाला है, because different actors are giving you their perception of, and their perception is based on reality. So if you have somebody who is doing foundry in Jalandhar and you push him or her, then you get closer to facts in an area where you don't have facts. Let's put it that way. The second thing is you learn what the adversary is saying. And if there are any common grounds, you learn them. The third is that you negotiate. So the difficulties become less. I've told the Committee on American Progress that if they want to come to India, we will be very happy to use this. It's not a fun tool. It's a learning tool and a negotiating tool. And I think it's interesting, Mukesh. And I think we should more learn. I'm not saying, I don't want to play an agency for a particular technique. But I think the problematic that the economy is important, the global economy is important, and when the satellite shows that beyond the Himalayas there is that great haze of pollution, and that we are a part of it. Now the first thing is, we should not be a part of it. And that's what the FMC has always been telling you. And it's also been showing you how you will not be a part of it. You don't have to close down the foundries, right? And that's what we thank our friends in the European Union for helping us in spreading that message. But it's also that, listen, we are doing our job. Now will you stop hammering us and come and sit down with us and let's think about the future? So those, I think, are the issues. And I thought a game was an interesting way, but I'm sure you have many other ways and better ways, and you will do those. And with those words, I hope for prosperity for you in 2016-17. I'm sure that the economy is going to do better. We've heard both the finance minister and the chief economic advisor, and now I think a little more grudgingly even the governor of the Reserve Bank. And so I hope you will be the first ones to prosper, and with that the country, and we will do better. And I'm sure you will do your bit in terms of leaving an India for future generations, which is better than the one that we inherited, because that is the only way progress takes place. Progress takes place because the next generation is smarter than mine. That is the first law a teacher has to learn, and I hope, I'm sure, that you know that and you will support the youngsters. So I welcome all of you, and I thank you for listening to me with so much of patience. You're all beautiful people. Jai Hind.
Dignitaries on the dais and dear participants, to begin with, let me thank the foundation for giving SIDBI an opportunity to speak. MSME, as Sri Alag was telling, is one of the important sectors still surviving in this hard circumstances. And we as a MSME Development Bank are very fortunate to be working with it. SIDBI has been taking a lot of initiatives in the last couple of years, especially in the last 1 or 2 years. And we have introduced, I'll just talk about a few things. We found that the investment sector was not very much, and then it was funding, people said, were very high, the rate of interest was high. So we recently introduced what is called a SMILE scheme, which is a 10,000 crore fund scheme where almost single digit rate of interest funding is given, quasi-equity is given. Then we also started another initiative, Make in India, in conjunction with the Government of India schemes, a 1,000 crore fund scheme for 25 sectors, where again competitive rate of interest is given. SIDBI has been promoting a lot of responsible financing. We are into energy efficiency. We have been asking MSMEs to take up energy efficiency. We have done about 500 units auditing and walk through audit and shown them how they can save money. And then we are trying to ask them to take it further. We have introduced one product called 4E product, where end-to-end energy solutions are possible. We are working with MSMEs for renewable energy. Rooftop is one of our areas. We find that a lot of MSMEs can save a lot of money and power bills in the due course, so we are encouraging rooftop. Going again in the energy efficiency, we have what is called the partial risk sharing facility, wherein we found that in India the ESCOs are there. ESCOs are one of the instruments for energy efficiency. We thought there is the need for capacity building of these ESCOs, and along with World Bank and JEF, we have come out with this partial risk sharing facility, which gives guarantee to banks, because these units don't generate assets, because banks look at assets collateral. These banks don't generate assets. So they need the credit guarantee funds. Government of India has already come out with a number of credit guarantee comes. This is another credit guarantee for the ESCOs which is there. Cluster development is one of our focus areas. And the last 25 years we have been working in this. We are working with a number of international agencies. And we feel that, we are bringing in cluster specific products, cluster specific initiatives, both as grant as loans. We, along with the Ministry of MSME, we have started an agro fund and a rural fund called the Aspire, wherein we are supporting smaller units, innovative units in the agro-based rural industries. Now, small finance banks, 10 banks were given licenses, 8 of which we are very glad to say, is our own units, our own microfinance units, were given, finance banks. So we have literally brought up these units, and then we are going to take them further. We are building capacity of these units so that these banks, so that they can, do a lot of work in small areas. Basically, what happens is MSMEs is we require local knowledge banks, local people who can help at the local level, people who know the people who have roots at the local level. So they get. Unfortunately, most of these MSMEs don't have this kind of credit history and things like that. So it's one-to-one that makes a lot of difference. So whenever we fund an MSME, when we look at a balance sheet, we feel that it is not so very support worthy. But when we talk to the promoter, we visit his unit, we know his credential, then we get a lot of strength. But all those are not reflected in the statements. So the small banks we perceive will make a lot of difference. So this is as far as the background of the SIDBI, which recent initiative. Now, of course, SIDBI is working with the Government of India for 2 important initiatives, the Startup India and the Stand Up India. Startup India, probably, the funds will be channelized through us, and we are looking at innovative projects. When we say startup, for all kinds of projects, not necessarily it has to be only IT projects. It can be any kind of manufacturing, because we can't eat and use IT. So we have to have other products also. So we are encouraging all kinds of products. So that is one area, the Stand Up India. The another one is the Stand Up India. Sorry, that is Startup India. Another one is the Stand Up India, wherein the government has already, Prime Minister has already announced that 2.5 lakh units across the country should be there. Each bank should either assist one women and one either SC or ST. So this is another initiative which we are taking it forward. And in fact, in this area, we are going to do a lot of hand-holding for the, that is one of the area which banks, SIDBI will be one of the institutions which will put in an ecosystem for hand-holding of MSMEs, the new entrepreneurs. So these are some of the new initiatives which are in the pipeline, which I think government will be announcing and will take it forward. Now, as far as the BMOs are concerned, SIDBI has been working with BMOs. BMOs have now come of age, and many people, right from the inceptions, in fact, right from IDBI days, I remember in 1980s, late 80s, we used to work with the Industry Association in Belgaum for modernization of foundry units there. So we go back to that era where we've been working with the BMOs, what we call the Industry Association we used to call, and we used to work with them. We find this is a very, very important instrument in the overall ecosystem for reaching the last mile. The Industry Association has got a lot of pluses when it comes to extending support, being a linkage. They can give banks a lot of confidence about how the units are. Now the only thing is, we find that right now, I don't know how many industry associations are there. I don't think there is any credible figure. Right from 800 to 6,000. Somebody was telling 6,000 units are there. So now SIDBI is one more initiative of SIDBI is we have a promotion and development scheme, which we have been supporting non-credit plus initiatives. Under this, we are trying to develop the industrialization, capacity build the industrialization. This is one of our focus areas as far as the promotion and development activities are concerned. We feel there is lack of vibrancy, there is lack of professionalism, there is lack of accountability, and they are not driven by results. They are only driven by reaction. They react to everything. So what we want industry associations to be, proactive. Of course, the range of services are poor. It's only most of the time it is only